Well, hey, this is Scott Langford from the Gen Global Educators Network YouTube channel. I'm here today with one of my colleagues on the Gen board, Chesa Capraras. Chesa was most recently a facilitator for our latest Global Educators Inquiry Meetup, November 18th, 2022, on media and information literacy in a global context, where the inquiry question was, how do you teach media and information literacy in the post-truth era? Good question. So before we plunge back into that topic and some new ones as well, let me introduce just some of Chesa's many accomplishments as my colleague. Chesa Capraras is faculty in English and Asian American Studies at the Anza College, where she teaches in the Impact, AAPI, and Flow hip hop learning communities. She's also faculty coordinator for the De Anza Women's Center. Originally from the Washington, D.C. area, Chesa attended boarding school in Switzerland before moving to California in 1999. She earned a BA and MA in modern literature from the University of California, Santa Cruz. She was a Stanford Human Rights Education Initiative Fellow from 2013 to 2014, during which time she developed curriculum on human rights violations in the tech industry. And in 2014, she was one of the recipients of the League of Innovation's Innovation of the Year Award. In 2022, she was a Fulbright Scholar to the Philippines, conducting research on media and information literacy, which is exactly where we pick up in January of 2023 to talk more about her journey as a Fulbright Scholar, including ways that we too, as community college educators, might apply to become Fulbright Scholars. Hear more about her research there in the Philippines on media and information literacy. And we'll also be diving into some other topics as well of interest to us all as community college educators. So Chesa, welcome to the Gen YouTube channel.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah.
I was working on my sabbatical project, which is an annotated bibliography on media and information literacy or digital literacy. Yeah.
Well, do you want to try to nutshell some of your conclusions?
I think that if we acknowledge
Yeah.
that generative AI can do these really amazing things, yes, it's scary. And honestly, like our students are going to be using it. I was chatting with the chair of the Asian American Studies department at De Anza. We were on a Zoom call and I was like, let me just share my screen and let's play around with ChatGPT. And I said, write me a paragraph on Asian American Studies. And like real time, boom, whole paragraph. And she was like, that's pretty good. Again, it's not that we have to like fear it and figure out how to like make sure our students don't do it and like make them sign these contracts where they're never going to use generative AI, because like it's kind of unrealistic. Like we're probably going to be using it too. I had another colleague who said, I asked ChatGPT to plan me a vacation in this one city and it actually had some really good recommendations. So to answer your question in terms of like, where is this all going? How's this going to be incorporated into my teaching? I teach ERIT 2, which is a critical thinking, research and critical thinking class.
Yeah.
Like honestly, the way that we do research has changed. Even I was like, because I know one of the things I teach is algorithmic bias, right? Which is like how human like social biases get embedded in the algorithms just because the data that they're trained on is biased. So I asked ChatGPT, what percentage of online content is written by men versus women versus trans or non-binary people? And ChatGPT was like, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact numbers, but their studies have shown that online content tends to marginalize like the voices and perspectives of women and non-binary people. I was like, oh, well, can you, what studies are you talking about? And it just listed like a bunch of different articles. I was like, can you send me like the full text of those? And then it sent me links to the full text.
Wow.
So it's going to completely change the way we do research.
Yeah. I hadn't heard this dimension that it's a research tool, not just a research fake, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the media coverage has been, okay, students can fake their research papers, blah, blah, blah. And we both teach research and critical thinking. Not that ever happened before. That's my reaction. Oh, really? Yeah, I think focusing on the positive implications can be really powerful. And it does seem to me, if I'm trying to fit it together in my own head, that you're exploring these sort of frontiers of the digital world in its deep impact on how we think about politics and its deep impact about how we think about ourselves, and that they all do kind of fit together. Like, how is this shaping the way that we think, the way we do politics, the way that we do research, the way we do critical thinking?
Right, right. and
and that it doesn't
and
have
the
to be, it
ethics
doesn't
of
always
it.
have to be a horrible thing either,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Because
It could be a
that's like
wonderful.
that's the ethical piece, right? Is
Sure.
how do we, okay, this is a new tool, right? And some people are like, I don't want to look at the tool. I don't want to pretend it exists. Students, you're not allowed to
Right,
use the
right,
tool,
right, right.
which is, that's their choice. And then if we choose to incorporate the tool, if we admit the tool is not going to go away, it's probably just going to get better and
Mhm.
stronger. How do we make sure that we maintain control over the tool? Right? How do we find the most ethical ways to use it? How do we make sure that it does the least amount of harm? Right? Because what I'm thinking is like, okay, as teachers, I'm exaggerating, but maybe 9 out of 10 teachers, you ask them what they love about teaching, they're not going to say grading, right?
No, that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, okay.
That's an undercount.
Yeah, okay, 10 out of 10 teachers are not going to say that grading is their favorite part. So it's like, if we are, how do we build upon the capacities, the affordances, sorry to use
Mhm.
buzzword, the affordances of these tools, so that if students maybe aren't going to be writing these formulaic essays that they have been, then do teachers still have to grade them the way we have been grading them?
Yeah,
Like, are there ways that we can kind of bump up what we do
yeah,
in the classroom?
yeah.
So it's like, hey, you now have a tool that does this. I now have a tool that does this. How do we then level up our
Yeah.
teaching so that we can actually get at what teaching is, which is about sharing ideas and
Yes.
adapting to changes, and learning how to be, hopefully be better to each other and be more informed people in this world.
What you might know better even than I do, but like the statistics in our district, in Foothill de Anza district, well over half of our students, I think it's almost two-thirds of our students, don't speak English as a first language at
Hmm.
home. So
Hmm.
what percentage then of their social media is not in English or is
Hmm.
influenced by cultures outside the United States or within the United States, immigrant cultures that may have been here for decades or centuries, but
Uh-huh.
how much of their media environment is shaped by media environments that are outside the United States already? And I don't just mean like paid trolls
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
from Russia or Slovenia or something like this, like the stereotypically, but just more, what are they looking at on a daily basis? And if those digital worlds really do differ in terms of aesthetics, in terms of media content, even in terms of how you use the data, then that's a really good thing to be aware of as a community
Hmm.
college instructor, right? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I've heard, because I've been reading a lot of analysis on, these new AI tools. Proponents of it say is that it's going to be great for students who don't have English as their first language, because the
Yeah.
translation capabilities are incredible. So I asked, so there's this famous singer in the Philippines named Moira de la Torre. She has a very distinct kind of song like style. It's very like romantic, and often like, they're usually love songs.
Hmm.
And there's this term in Filipino called hugot, which is like the root is like to dig up, and it's because it's like
Hmm.
so emotional, you're like digging the feelings up, so that's how you
Yes.
describe
Wow.
music like that. So I asked ChatGPT, I was like, hey, can you write me a song in the style of Moira de la Torre? And it's like, unfortunately, I can't compose you a song because I don't have music capability, but I can write you the lyrics for a song that draws on her emotional and storytelling style. And I was like, wow, just that it already knew that those are some of the defining characteristics of her, that she's very emotional, that she tells stories in her songs. I mean, I'm sure Wikipedia could have told you that. That's
Yeah.
probably where it got it. And then it proceeded to write me a song in Tagalog, like in her style.
Wow.
I'm not doing this to put a bunch of traffic to ChatGPT, but I'm just saying, like, this is, for I'm trying to learn Filipino, I'm trying to learn Tagalog. So for myself, it's a really amazing language tool.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's scary, and it has the potential to displace some of the work that we as educators have been doing.
Mhm.
My response to that is, how do we get to that place where we're doing that deeper or higher level work? The machines might be smart, but supposedly humans are still a little bit smarter, I hope.
Yeah.
They haven't overtaken us yet. So how do we build on it to make sure that education continues to be as useful as it is?